In the quiet moments, that's where I'll find a little room to breathe, leave it all behind. Give me room to breathe, I need some time to heal my heart, to clear my mind. Gonna love myself, yeah, I believe in the power of me. Just give me room to breathe.
Great new day to all my self-care family and friends. Welcome back to the Room to Breathe podcast. I am your host, Life Coach 614, and I am so happy that you made space to be here with us today. Now, before we get into today's episode, do me a quick favor. If you're feeling the vibes, go ahead and show us some love. Tap the screen, like, comment, but most importantly, please share this out with someone who may need a little healing energy today. And if this is your first time here or you haven't done so already, be sure to hit the follow button and subscribe to our channel so that way you're always tapped in when a new episode drops. I also wish to personally invite you to check out our digital home at theselfcareclub.org, where you'll find everything from affirmative apparel to motivational merch and a bunch of free resources to help you nourish your growth and remind you that you are supported every step of the way. Just know that you don't have to do this alone. We are healing in a community, growing one breath, one moment, one day at a time. So give yourself permission to pause, to reflect, and to make space for peace, for growth, but most importantly for you. Now, if anything in today's episode hits home, I want you to drop a green heart in the chat. That is our community's way of saying, I am healing, I'm growing, and I am showing up for me. Now, let's get ready to breathe, reflect, and grow together. Today's topic, y'all, listen. Today's conversation, I feel like it's just going to be a little bit spicy. Let me give you all a little idea as to what I'm talking about, okay? Today's conversation, I feel like it's just, like I said, a little bit spicy, a little flavorful. It's going to be one of these conversations that just sit with you and keep simmering. Y'all heard that phrase, let her cook, before, right? Usually, somebody says it playfully when somebody's in their zone, doing what they do best. And we say, let her cook, meaning, don't get in their way. Don't interrupt what they're doing, right? Just sit back and watch them create something amazing in their own time. And so that's what we're getting into today with the vibe, okay? And I really just want to take that even a step deeper, right? When we say let her cook, because I think in our culture, cooking is never just cooking, right? It's legacy. It's storytelling, it's healing, right? It's love on a plate. And if you've ever been in a black kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, you know exactly what I'm talking about. See, we don't just throw food together, right? We season it, we stir it, we let it sit, right? That macaroni and cheese, oh, honey, it got to set before you can get a slice. That gumbo, it tastes better the next day because all the flavors had time to dance together. That Sunday dinner, the collard greens, the oxtails, the cornbread, it's been slow cooking all day. And that's why it tastes like comfort, right? Like home, like history. Welcome in, Tiff. And I want you guys to understand that life works the same way. You can't rush through the motions, but it's like, okay, I guess you could rush through the motions, but like the real transformation comes when you let it marinate, right? When you give it time to soak, to settle, right? To flavor every part of who you are. Because here's the truth. Anybody can throw some seasonings on the surface, right? That's like saying affirmations without believing in them. Right? Setting boundaries without enforcing them, or posting these I'm healed quotes online while you're still bleeding on the inside. That's just surface level. But when you let it marinate, right? That's when it seeps into your spirit. That's when, that healing gets on the inside and it starts to show in the decisions that you make. That's when peace seasons your tone. That's when your boundaries don't just live on paper, but they live in your presence. So today I don't want to just talk about cooking, right? I want to talk about the process, about the patience, about how marination is the part that you can't skip. Just like in our kitchens where the food has to rest, it has to simmer, it has to marinate. We do too, right? We also need space to absorb the lessons, the healing, the self-love that's been poured into us. Because at the end of the day, fam, listen, you are what you sit in, right? And so the question becomes, what are you letting season you? When you marinate food, you're not just sprinkling a little seasoning on the surface and calling it done, right? Because we understand that the real flavor takes time. The marination process is slow. It is an intentional process, right? It's letting that seasoning sink deep into every single fiber, every single fold, every crevice. It's about taking something that's tough, maybe even raw, right? And transforming it into something tender, something flavorful, something ready to nourish. And that's exactly how people are too. I believe that our environment seasons us. I mean, just think about it. The people that you spend time with, the places that you inhabit, the conversations that you engage in, even the music or media that you consume, they all seep into your spirit. So if you're marinating in chaos and negativity and scarcity thinking, then guess what? That flavor starts to show up in your energy and your decisions and your self-talk. But here's the flip side. If you're soaking in love, in encouragement, growth, and inspiration, that's the seasoning that will rise to the top. That's, what will flavor your words, your habits, your relationships. You can almost taste the difference in your own spirit when you've been marinating in positivity versus negativity and pain. And so today I want you to ask yourself, what am I marinating in daily without even realizing it? What energies am I soaking in? Are the flavors around me nourishing me, or are they leaving me bland and bitter and burnt out? And understand that time makes it tender, right? Healing doesn't happen overnight. Transformation isn't instant, right? Just like a good barbecue or a rich gumbo or those Sunday greens that we love, your spirit needs time to absorb all the seasonings of life. And when I'm talking about the seasonings of life, I mean the lessons, the boundaries, the peace. Sometimes you just got to let it sit overnight or even longer. The pressure and the heat of life will help some things cook faster, but the flavor, the tenderness comes with time. And so you can't rush your healing. And stillness is also a part of the recipe, right? Because I feel like we often forget that we live in a world obsessed with speed, right? Speed, instant rules, instant results, where they kind of skip through the rules or the instructions. It's just, we want instant gratification, instant validation. But the best flavors, whether in our food or in our healing or in our personal growth, it requires patience. You have to pause. You have to sit. You have to let the work, that you've done soak in. Let it be absorbed into your heart and your mind, right? Because it's the only way you're really truly going to absorb the lessons. I mean, think about it. Even in Black kitchens, the best gumbo doesn't taste right if it's rushed. Collard greens aren't fully seasoned if they don't rest. The cornbread isn't, as tender if you pull it out the oven too soon. That's not a flaw in the recipe, right? That was an intentional part of the recipe. It's a reflection of, life itself. All that transformation, self-love, healing, it's a process. And that process takes time. Okay? It needs time to grow, to evolve, right? And so every time you allow yourself to marinate, whether in reflection, prayer, journaling, therapy, or even just in quiet time, you're letting your spirit absorb the seasonings that it needs to transform. You're giving yourself permission to become tender where you were once hardened, right? Flavorful where you were once plain, whole where you were once fragmented. And listen, everything that you sit with ain't meant to stick. All right? Just like some foods, some foods are meant to be rinsed off, drained, or left behind. You wouldn't marinate your chicken in something, spoiled or bitter, right? That flavor would ruin the entire meal. So we have to understand that the same goes for our spirit. And I'm talking about like toxic environments, right? Whether it's family situations, a job, a friendship, or even your own negative thoughts, right? That can seep into your soul if you're not careful. Same thing goes with like patterns that you don't deserve, right? The gossip, negativity, the comparison, that limited mindset or the scarcity mindset. These flavors are heavy and they cling to your decisions, your energy, your confidence. So you have to be careful, right? Because again, everything that you sit in ain't meant to stick with you. I want you to spend some time asking yourself, what have I been marinating in that is actually poisoning my peace? Are there spaces or relationships or even habits that need to be drained out of my life? Do I need to rinse these people off, right? Do I need to rinse this situation off? Because family, here's the truth. You can't bloom in soil that's toxic. You can't thrive in a space that doesn't nourish your purpose. And don't get it twisted. Healing isn't about, working on your, it's not just about working on yourself internally. It's about checking your environment too. Understanding that boundaries aren't optional, right? They're seasoning. They protect the flavor of your soul while letting the good soak in. Think about, when grandma used to make the greens, right? She don't just toss them in water and boil them. Nah, she got to rinse them off. She got to cut away the stems that are too tough. She seasons and simmers, letting only the best parts soak in. Your life works the same way. Sometimes you have to trim, what's unnecessary and let the good absorb in fully. And, for those people who are on their growth journey, right? If you want to grow, you've got to check the soil that you're planted in, right? A seed that's planted in poor soil won't thrive no matter how much sunlight it gets. And the same goes for people, right? Your environment should nourish your next level. Your environment should remind you who you are. Welcome in, Miss Glow. Your environment should pour into your peace. It should stretch your soul, not stress it. So again, when we think about, the best gumbo or macaroni and cheese or the most tender greens you've had, right? They were cooked in the right pot, over the right heat, with the right ingredients. And the same is true for your life. So are you marinating in spaces, people, or habits that stretch you in the direction of love and your purpose? Or are you sitting in environments that are stressing you, shrinking you, dimming your light? Do the people around you season you with encouragement, with growth, with peace? Or are they filled with toxicity and doubt and chaos and drama? Hey, Harlem Dee, welcome in. So again, family, be sure to check your soil. Okay, protect your space. Don't let anyone plant their bitterness in your garden. You've got to spend some time removing the weeds. You got to pour in nutrients for that soil. And when I say the nutrients, I'm talking about the positive relationships, the peaceful environments, right? Find the calm, the intentional habits, and let yourself soak in that fully. Rich Risings, Kale, welcome in, sis. Remember when I said I gave a cornbread analogy, y'all? That thinking about, how cornbread is made, right? Cornbread doesn't rise in a cold oven. Seeds won't sprout in poisoned soil. Your spirit can't flourish where it's not nurtured. So you have to give yourself permission to step into spaces that flavor your life with love and purpose and power. We've got to spend some time, really truly figuring out where in our lives, are we marinating in flavors that don't serve us? What weeds need to be pulled from our garden so we can grow? Right, Kale? Who or what needs to be drained, filtered, rinsed, replaced so I can absorb the right seasoning? What spaces or relationships can I step into that will nourish my next level? And honestly, it's okay to give yourself permission to change your environment so that way you can change your life. It's okay to, release the residue of what you've soaked in that is now no longer serving you. So that way you can step into spaces that flavor you with, like I said, peace and purpose and power. And, even thinking about like blending flavors, right? I think this is the part where things start to get richer, right? Because life isn't just about like an individual ingredient, right? It's about the blend. Think about gumbo for a second, okay? Most gumbos, you've got what? Okra, sausage, shrimp, chicken, spices, right? Each ingredient has its own flavor, its own texture, right? They're good independently. They don't need each other, right? But it's only when you simmer them all together where the magic happens. That's when the flavors marry, right? That's when it becomes greater than the sum of its parts. And isn't that what healing is too? Right? When we think of blending flavors, what about blending healing? So I'm talking about your pain, your joy, your lessons, your dreams. They're all ingredients in your gumbo, right? They might not taste great separately at first. Some parts might even be a little bitter. But if you give them time and you let them simmer, you let them blend, you let them marinate together, oh, now this healing thing doesn't look so bad. It doesn't feel so bad. That's why patience is sacred. You cannot rush transformation. You cannot force flavor. Every, piece of your journey, the heartbreak, the triumph, the quiet reflections, it is all seasoning you. And when you allow it time to mingle, Rich Rising, Shanice, welcome in. When you allow it, time to mingle, when you let yourself sit in the simmer, right? That's when, your wisdom, your resilience, and your joy start to shine through. So, again, spend some time figuring out what parts of you need to blend before you can fully taste the growth. Figure out if you're rushing your journey or if you're allowing your experiences to simmer together in harmony. Again, just like in these kitchens, gumbo isn't measured in minutes. It's measured in patience, love, intuition. The same applies to your spirit. So you have to trust your simmer, trust your process, trust the flavors of, your life that are melding one day, one day soon, those flavors will be rich. They'll be so layered that anyone who tastes that energy will feel it. Hey, Cardi. And then, let's talk about the beauty of the leftovers, right? How many times have you made something to eat and you can't wait to put that thing in the fridge so everything can blend together, right? That next day, the food tastes even better. And I think that this is the part that most people miss, right? Some flavors get better with time. Think about it. Them Sunday greens, that pot of gumbo, when you taste it the next day, those flavors deepen, right? They become richer, more flavorful. Your healing is like that too. See, sometimes the lessons that you're living today don't make sense yet. Sometimes the breakthrough, the peace, or the clarity comes after time has passed. Right? We say hindsight 2020. Welcome back, Vegan Healer. Right? And that's okay, right? That's even beautiful when you think about it. So when we think about patience and practice, you think about your boundaries, right? Boundaries may not feel firm at first. Your self-love may feel awkward in the beginning. Your peace may seem distant when you start. But family, just like leftovers, these things deepen over time. They develop richness and texture and the flavors that you couldn't get if you rushed the process. So we need to focus on where in our lives, do we need to wait for these flavors to develop? What lessons or growth are we impatiently trying to rush? How can we honor that slow, steady process that transforms these raw ingredients into something that is soul nourishing? Are we truly giving our experiences the time and space that they need to blend? And, where in our lives do we need to embrace patience, right? Trust that simmer. Come on now, crock pot that thing. Yeah, that's probably my favorite kitchen appliance is that crock pot, honey. Let it simmer, right? Let it cook. You guys, what leftovers in your life are richer today than they were yesterday because you allowed them to marinate? This whole podcast conversation, I thought about this probably a month ago, right? And of course, it's me listening to Glorilla Let Her Cook, right? It's something about that song, y'all, that it just kind of sparked this idea. I'm always trying to figure out ways to take my podcast content and just kind of flip it to have something out the box. So again, y'all, I'm sitting, minding my business, right? This song come on. Hold on, let me get it for you. So, I'm sitting. Glorilla start playing. The beat take over. And then this whole song, she's talking about let her cook. Right? So I had to sit with this song. I even had to go out and get the instrumental because I needed to sit with it. I needed to not be distracted. I had to let it marinate. Like I said, this is over a month ago. But in the process of me sitting with this, my ideas deepened. Right? Let it cook. And so the leftovers of this thought that I had from a month ago, I have let this sit. I have let this topic simmer. right? I had to add a little spiritual marination to the topic, right? Because y'all know everything I do it with intention. I do it with a purpose. So let's talk about spiritual marination and intentionality. Because I think that this is where the magic deepens, right? Just like the marinade seeps into every inch of the meat, your spirit absorbs the energy, the intentions, and the vibrations of the space and the people that you spend the most time with. That's why intentionality is so powerful, right? It's, choosing what flavors touch your soul. Your mind, your body, your spirit are constantly soaking in something. Some days it's positivity, it's love, it's encouragement. Other days, what? It's stress, gossip, negativity, toxic energy, right? But the question is, which one are you allowing to season your life? There was this period in my life where, I was on social media just scrolling mindfully, absorbing drama, comparison, fear from social media, right? I was allowing everyone else to project how they felt, and I was making that my life story, right? And for a while, I didn't even realize how much flavor had marinated in me until I noticed my own peace and my own self-talk were starting to taste bitter. That's when I realized, you know what? I need to take a step back. I need a conscious pause, do a little detox, right? Because there were things that were seeping into my soul that weren't mine. And so, you have to take a pause sometimes and analyze your environment. And that's when you start to remove those influences and start to intentionally soak in the practices that nurture your soul. And when I say that, I'm talking about more prayer, more journaling, affirmations, uplifting or motivational, inspirational, conversations. So I want you guys to think about, what are you soaking in daily that you actually can control? I know there's a lot of stuff that happens in life we have no control over. But equally so, there's a lot of things that is happening in our life that we can control. So what are you soaking in daily that you have full control over? Ask yourself, am I allowing my spirit to absorb positivity or negativity? And start thinking about which spiritual practices can serve as your marinade, right? Things that seep in and, flavor your perspective, your energy, your actions. This is when intentionality comes in, right? Intentionality is a seasoning you choose. It's what you consciously decide to allow in. I welcome this. I open the door to this, right? But it's also where you start to determine what you're keeping out. This can't sit here. This can't stay here. Fear, doubt, negativity, depression, stress, right? That can't stay here because that doesn't taste good. That doesn't feel good. So I don't want that. And so when I'm scrolling on social media or when I'm engaging with people, face to face, if all they are serving me is gossip and toxic energy, I don't want to be here because I don't like the way it tastes. I would rather go back and, spiritually marinate, right? I've already created, this morning ritual where, I incorporate prayer and affirmations and meditations because that sets the tone for the day, right? So I wake up every morning, purposely pouring into me. I start the day with my praise and worship, right? Say a little prayer for the day, write a few affirmations. I take that, the work that I'm doing independently for me, I take that and I also find a way to pour that back into my community, right? So I'm in the self-care club chat in the mornings, sprinkling prayers and affirmations, asking questions to get other people to think, wake other people up, right? That's my morning ritual. Then, I sprinkle in my journaling, right? Because journaling is where you get to pour your thoughts onto paper to help your spirit absorb some clarity, to release the things that don't serve you, right? So at some point, I got to dump everything in here out. Yeah. Then we incorporate our self-care routine, not just the bubble baths. I'm talking about the rituals that actually nourish your mind, your body, your soul. Things like reading, stretching, yoga. Thank you, Dee. Right? Mindful cooking. Stir the greens and cook the corn, right? And then we also surround ourselves with people who reflect the values and the energy that we want to marinate in. So I don't need sour, bitter people in my community. I need people who are loving, who are encouraging, right? I want our flavors to mesh together. I'm positive, you positive. Come on, let's be positive together, right? You don't throw random seasonings in a pot and expect the flavors to taste good, right? When you're cooking, you don't just go in the cabinet and say, I'll take this, we'll use a little of this, add a dash of this, a pinch of this. No. So you have to treat your spirit the same way. You have to be intentional about the energy, the thoughts, the influences that you allow to soak in. Otherwise, it's going to ruin the meal. It's going to ruin you. So are you marinating in spiritual nutrients or toxicity? Yes, that positivity gumbo. Yes. What small shifts can you make today to ensure, that your energy, your thoughts, and your intentions season you with growth, with love, with clarity? Which relationships, media, habits can be removed so that your spirit can fully absorb the richness of your purpose? Uplifting ingredients only. Exactly. Spiritual marination is about being deliberate with your soul. Okay? It's not about perfection. It's about choosing consistency. It's about choosing consistently. The more intentional you are, the richer the flavor of your life. Exactly. Guarding those ear and eye gates. Absolutely. Every prayer, every moment of reflection, every conscious decision is, soaking in, right? To every time you purposely choose positivity, it's seeping into your being, right? And when your spirit is fully marinated, it transforms not just you, but everyone around you, right? We get to share the flavors with others. Think about it. 5 years ago, I started on this self-care journey for me. I wanted to love me more, right? Instead of me going out here and needing other people to love me and to pour into me, I wanted to learn to love me more. So 5 years ago, I started going through therapy. I started doing my own shadow work, and building my relationship with God. And in the process of that, and me deciding to heal out loud, now all of a sudden, I'm able to share these flavors with other people. I'm able to push the button daily and pop off on purpose, right? Because we spread positivity on purpose. So once your spirit has been fully marinating in love, intention, and growth, it starts to radiate outward. Your energy, your wisdom, and your presence naturally influence those around you. Just like a well-seasoned dish nourishes everyone who tastes it. A healed, intentional, and grounded spirit uplifts, the people and the spaces that you inhabit. Your marinated spirit, brings in the lessons, the patience, the clarity. It shapes your words, your interactions, the very atmosphere wherever you go. So when your energy is seasoned with self-love and confidence and peace, it literally becomes the catalyst of transformation for other people. And so, the ways that you can share your seasoned spirit, welcome in, Papa Smurf. The ways that you can share your seasoned spirit is first and foremost your presence, right? And when I say presence, I ain't talking about just being here. Hi, Nija. I don't mean just being here, right? I mean showing up fully and intentionally, right? You showing up into a space fully and intentionally is, the gift in itself to the people around you. What do I say? My presence is a gift. If I have shown up in your space, guess what? You are blessed, because my presence alone is a gift, right? We can season our spirit and share our seasoned spirit with others by setting boundaries. Thank you. By setting boundaries, right? The peace that you protect teaches other people how to honor their own. So the moment I started setting and enforcing my boundaries, at first people were like, what? Like, what? Hold on, I can't disrespect you. I can't use you. I can't manipulate you. Like, what? But again, when I stood on business and I enforced those boundaries and I kept showing up every day, enforcing those boundaries, people started saying, okay, well, if she could do it, I could do it too. And you can. That don't hurt my feelings, right? So because I choose to show up every day and protect my peace on purpose, I have now taught those around me that they can do it too. I've taught others around me how they can honor their own boundaries. Your energy, right? Think about your energy, your calm, your intentional vibration, right? When you show up with that calm and that, purpose-filled vibration, you're creating space for other people to relax, to reflect, and grow. Y'all, if I was a chaotic person, right? If I was just a low vibrational kind of person, y'all would come in here and be like, what is happening here? I could literally drain all of your energy. I could sit here. And y'all know I'm telling the truth, because how many times have you scrolled past somebody on social media and just sitting there looking at them? Maybe you don't even hear them. You just see their mouth moving. And your energy just diminishes. Hey, LaShonda, welcome in. Right? So the same way somebody can be an energy vampire, be it in person, on screen, right? Is the same way a person who's positive can influence. Like I said, your calm, your positive, intentional vibrations. That creates space for the people around you to also be calm. And then lastly, of course, your actions, right? If we're not acting on it, what are we doing? So your actions, whether it's through mentorship, support, or creating spaces for community, your growth benefits everyone you touch. I'm living proof of that. Again, 5 years ago, I started this journey for me. This doesn't have nothing to do with y'all. I ain't have a self-care club. Hell, I was still learning what self-care was, right? But now that I've done the work for me, and that I'm still showing up every day, 5 years, every day, still doing the work for me, now I realize that I can also make space for you. I can make space for other people. I can cultivate a community of other people to be able to show up and heal. And guess what? Not only do I help you heal, but you guys help me heal. So again, that is the way that we are sharing our seasoned spirit. Sharing your flavors, is not just about giving away pieces of yourself. It's about radiating the fullness of your growth. A well-marinated soul inspires. They uplift, right? They transform naturally. And so the more intentional you are about, what your inner seasoning, the more beautifully you impact the world around you. But again, in order to do this, we've got to start trusting the process and embracing the timing. Because here's the truth. We know marination takes time, right? You can't rush it. You can't force it. You can't microwave a meal that was meant to soak overnight. You can't shortcut your healing or your growth. You got to trust the process. That's right. And everything in life has its season, right? The moments to cook, the moments to marinate, and you have your moments to serve. Trusting the process means that you understand each phase, that each pause, each reflection, each challenge that you experience is part of the flavor building. So we've got to begin to understand that patience is power. Waiting isn't wasted time. Waiting is when your spirit starts to absorb and to integrate, all the flavors where the transformation is really taking place. We need to understand that timing matters. Just like a dish isn't ready until the flavors are fully blended together, your readiness for certain opportunities, relationships, or milestones depends on the timing of your marination. And the next one I know that we all probably can admit to struggling with is when it comes into that faith work, right? Having faith in the unseen. Because oftentimes when you're on your healing journey, you may not see results immediately, but that doesn't mean that nothing's happening. Growth, just like marination, is quiet work that builds depth and richness from the inside out. So, family, understand that every pause, every quiet moment, every season of waiting is all part of your recipe. Trust that your spirit is absorbing the right flavors. Trust that your lessons are tenderizing you. Trust that when the time is right, your richness will be undeniable, not just for you, but for everyone around you. Healing and growth are not about speed. This is not a race, okay? It's about depth. The richness of your transformation truly depends on how fully you allow yourself to cook and to marinate. So you have to protect your process, honor your timing, and step into your life with confidence, knowing that every flavor, every pause, right? Every season is preparing you for your fullness. So listen, y'all, it's time for us to come full circle, right? We've got to bring it all back and remember, that the best meals, the best healing, the deepest growth all require time. The process of healing isn't always fast and it's not always visible, but it is always happening. We started the conversation with let her cook, right? Step back, trust the process, and allow the magic to just happen. But we didn't stop there, right? We talked about marination, about letting your spirit soak in love, lessons, and intention, so that way your energy, your peace, and your wisdom are fully flavored. We explored how our environments season us, how our intentionality matters, and how growth, once it's fully marinated, right, radiates outward and helps to nourish others. We learned that every pause, every reflection, every boundary, every spiritual practice is a part of our recipe for transformation. So today I encourage you to let yourself cook. You don't have to rush your process. Your growth is a masterpiece in progress. In addition to letting yourself cook, I want you to let it marinate. I want you to absorb the lessons, the love, the wisdom, I want you to be patient with yourself and your journey. I want you to protect your soil. And when I say protect your soil, it means I want you to guard your environment, your energy, and your boundaries, because they determine the flavor of your spirit. You have to, share your flavor. Don't gatekeep. Don't keep it to yourself, right? Because understand that when you're fully seasoned, your presence naturally uplifts and inspires others around you. So don't be a gatekeeper. You done got this healing, honey, share it. Let your healing be the gift that keeps on giving. Thank you so much. And above all else, you guys, trust the process. Time, patience, and stillness are not washed. Okay? They're all transformative. So today we say, I'm going to let myself cook. Right? I'm going to let myself marinate. I protect my space, my peace, and my purpose because they're mine. Right? I trust the timing of my life and the richness of my transformation. Thank you. The flavors I cultivate within me nourish myself and my community. I want you guys to understand today that your journey is a living recipe. So every challenge, every pause, every moment of growth is like an ingredient that shapes your life into something extraordinary. The richness, the depth, the flavor, all your healing transformation is unfolding perfectly in its own divine timing. So as we close today, I want you to remember that it's okay to step back when needed. Just sit and let the magic happen. It is okay to stay in the seasonings. Absorb all the lessons, all the peace, and all the love. And then share your flavors boldly. Because now that you've fully marinated, right? Your fully marinated spirit is that gift that you get to give to the world. I want to thank you guys for breathing, reflecting, and marinating with me today. I want you to keep letting your spirit soak in the love and purpose and growth, one breath, one moment, one day at a time. Know that your flavor is unique, your seasoning is divine, and your story deserves to be tasted fully. So let it cook, let it marinate, and trust the richness of your transformation. Know that the richness in your transformation is going to shine brilliantly, naturally, and unapologetically. Your life, your growth, and your peace, it's all a recipe. So protect it, season it intentionally, and share it boldly. But above all, trust the process. Just like in our kitchens, the best meals take time. You don't rush a pot of gumbo, and you don't speed up Sunday dinner, right? Every ingredient matters, every step matters, and every minute of simmering matters. The same is true for your life, your healing, your growth. These aren't processes that you can force or rush. They require patience, attention, and trust. The flavors of your life, meaning like your lessons, your breakthroughs, your peace, your joy, your resilience, they all need time to marinate. They need space to settle, to absorb, to infuse every fiber of who you are. So when it comes to healing, you can't rush this. You can't compare your process to someone else's. Your timing, your journey, your transformation it's perfectly, exactly unfolding for you. So again, family, hear me clearly. Let it cook. Let it marinate. Step back from impatience, the pressure, the comparisons. Protect your soil. Protect the sacred spaces of your mind, your body, your spirit. Blend your flavors intentionally. Trust your leftovers. Some lessons, some breakthroughs, some peace is richer and stronger after time has passed. So enjoy the leftovers. The wisdom and growth often comes from letting life simmer. And remember, life isn't just about the destination, right? It's about the process. It's about, the simmering, right? It's in the stirring, the waiting, the reflecting, and even the discomfort where your flavors develop their richness. There is truly a power in pausing. There's a magic in allowing yourself to sit in your journey and absorb everything, just everything that it's giving you. I want you to celebrate every step along the way. Notice the small wins. I want you to notice the growth in the quiet moments. Acknowledge how far you've come when it feels slow. Trust that, your tender, seasoned spirit is exactly what the world needs. Your unique flavor, your lived experiences, your wisdom, your joy. And let me leave you guys with this. Your flavors are unique, right? Your seasoning is divine, and your story deserves to be tasted fully. So don't rush it. Don't water it down. Just protect it and nurture it. Let yourself cook. Let yourself marinate, and trust that when the timing is right, the richness of your transformation will shine unapologetically for you, for your people, for the world. So breathe, sit, reflect, absorb, marinate, okay? And watch how life in all its layers gives you exactly what you need. Great Grace Tay. And not only is it going to give you exactly what you need, but it's going to be exactly when you're ready to taste it. Your journey is a masterpiece in the making, and every step, every pause, every flavor, it counts. So again, let her cook, y'all. Let it be. Let yourself be. And above all, enjoy. Now, before we part ways, let me leave you guys with a little love and light. As always, I encourage you to keep breathing through the highs, the lows, and all the moments in between. I want you to show up every day choosing peace, even if it feels like it's just out of reach. And know that here at the Self-Care Club, you are always seen, always valued, and will always be supported. So don't be afraid to take up space, speak your truth, and make a little room for you to breathe. I pray that you all have an amazing day on purpose. And I hope that your day is not just amazing, but aligned, intentional. This has been another Room to Breathe podcast, and I look forward to connecting with you all again soon. Thank you.